Seriously? You mean your brother is interested in Sonia's best friend? Matt asked in a whisper, as they continued eating while Sonia was in the room talking to Lucy. Yeah, so I need you to help me find out all you can about her best friend? Brian said, and Matt grinned. Are you sure you can get rid of Sonia? From the way I see it, if your brother ends up getting married to her best friend, you might have to see her every time you show up at your brother's place. Matt said with a cheerful smile as though he was already looking forward to it. That doesn't change anything. Stick to the plan and get her out of here within a week. You can still do that, right? Brian asked with a slightly raised brow. A week? What's the hurry? I just don't want her around me, Brian said with a shrug. I wasn't going to say anything, but maybe I should. Why do you seem so worked up over her? Matt asked, watching Brian closely. I don't know. She just makes me very... He paused as though he was searching for the right word. She makes me very uncomfortable, Brian said, choosing to make do with uncomfortable. Uncomfortable? How? Matt asked with a slightly raised brow. I wish I knew. Are you sure it's not because you find her interesting and you're scared you might fall for her charms? Maybe you're just scared you might end up falling for her, Matt said thoughtfully. The Brian he knew would have no reservations about playing along with Sonia until they both get tired and went their separate ways. So why was he putting in so much effort into trying to have her leave? Shut up, if you have nothing better to say. Quit saying shit, Brian growled at him. Are you sure it's shit? Because if you're being honest with yourself right now, you'd agree with me that you are not acting as you ordinarily would act if she was someone else. Matt pointed out. And how do you think I would have acted if it was someone else? Go on, tell me, Brian said, looking at him with a slightly raised brow. We both know if you really didn't want her around you, you would have called off the whole engagement thing by now. You're not someone that cares so much about what the public thinks. You've been in and out of a lot of sexual and relationship scandals. And if you really proposed to her just to clear up the scandal concerning Sophia, you would have cleared this up already, Matt explained. He raised a finger when Brian opened his mouth to speak. Hold on, I'm not done yet. What is the worst she can do if you call off the engagement? Tell the world that you both didn't know each other before? What is the best you can do? Refuse to give any comment and tell the public that you'd like your private business to stay private. It would take a week or two, and you would be done with all of that. Another celebrity would do something scandalous, and attention will shift from you. Now, think about it. Am I right or wrong when I say you're acting out of character? Matt asked, making Brian frown. Before he could respond, they heard Sonia's voice. So what did you both talk about in my absence? Sonia asked with a teasing smile as she returned to join them at the table. I was just telling Brian here how lucky he is to have a beautiful and intelligent woman like you, Matt said with a grin, making Sonia raise both hands to her cheeks as though she was blushing. Ah, I'm blushing. That's so sweet of you. I'm glad I have you on my side, Sonia said, while Brian just kept looking at them both with a blank expression as he processed what Matt had said. Was it really as easy as Matt had made it sound? Was he really just stalling when he can easily just tell her it's over? So tell me something. Do you have a friend or sister that you can hook me up with? Matt asked with a playful smile and winked at Brian, who quickly took the cue. Yes, she does. Or is your best friend in a relationship? Brian asked, looking at her and trying not to sound too curious about her best friend. I would have loved to hook you up with her. But unfortunately, Lucy isn't interested in guys, so I don't think it will work, Sonia said with an apologetic smile, which made Brian narrow his eyes. She wasn't interested in guys? Did that mean she was into girls? Brian wondered. She is into girls? Matt asked, voicing the question on Brian's mind, which made Sonia laugh out loud. No, she isn't. Maybe if she was into girls, I would be married to her by now, Sonia said with an amused smile. What about you? Are you into girls? Brian asked suspiciously since he had noticed the way she had checked the strippers out at the club the previous evening. I don't think I will be engaged to you if I was into girls. But you could say I'm bisexual, though. I've been with one or two girls before. Sonia said with a wink, making Brian scoff, even though he was actually feeling intrigued to know more about Sonia. You're joking, right? Matt asked in disbelief. I'm not. Anyway, I was just trying to say Lucy is not into the whole relationship stuff, Sonia said with a shrug. Why not? Did someone break her heart? If she did, then you should hook us up. Brian, tell her my nickname, Matt said to Brian, who chuckled. He's the heart mender, Brian said with a small smile. Of course, there was no way he was going to allow Matt to go anywhere close to Lucy, and Matt knew it. He just needed Matt to keep asking Sonia questions about Lucy. That way, Sonia wouldn't suspect anything. You heard that, right? I mend broken hearts, Matt told Sonia. Well, I don't think you can mend this heart. It is more complicated than that, and she prefers to be alone, Sonia said before turning to look at Brian. So what about your siblings? Sonia asked, trying to change the subject from her friend. They're okay. My brother is busy running his company, while my sister is busy being a lawyer, Brian answered, Tisishted, wanting to give her the answer he knew she wanted. That's so nice. So what is your brother like? Is he anything like you? Sonia asked again, grateful that he was being more responsive now than he had been earlier that morning. Nah! He is completely different from Brian. He is the gentle version, and he is more handsome too, Matt said, making Brian raise a brow. He isn't more handsome than I am, Brian hissed at him. You have always been jealous of your brother's looks. Admit it, Matt said with a chuckle, making Brian throw a piece of steak at him. Shut up, Brian hissed at Matt, making Sonia giggle. That meant Tom was very handsome, just as Matt had told her before. I bet he has a better personality too, Sonia said, wanting to get more information. He is boring. He prefers to keep to himself. And I don't think he is very good with ladies either, or has he changed? Matt asked Brian, who shook his head. No, he hasn't. You know, he lives like a hermit. He still doesn't like people looking at him or coming too close to him, Brian said, while Sonia nodded her head as she digested the information. Why? Did something happen to make him that way? Sonia asked thoughtfully. I don't think so. He has always been that way since we were all young. I can't even remember him playing games with us more than twice when we were young. He was always in his bedroom, busy with his book or his computer. It's no wonder he is so successful today, Matt said, and Brian nodded his head in agreement. So you mean he is not married or involved with any lady at the moment? Sonia asked, trying not to sound too into the subject, even though both Matt and Brian could tell she was very much interested. He isn't. He would settle down when he meets the right person. By the way, what about your best friend? Where does she live? Do you think maybe we can hook her up with my brother? I think they might be good for each other, Brian suggested, making Sonia choke on the water she had just started drinking. What? She asked, looking at him in surprise, while Brian and Matt stifled the urge to laugh. I was just kidding, Brian said with a smirk as he pushed away his chair from the table and stood up. I will do the dishes since you both fixed dinner, Brian said as he started stacking up the dishes. I will assist you, Matt offered as he stood up to join Brian. What do you think you are doing? Brian asked 45 minutes later when he walked into his bedroom after he was done doing the dishes with Matt and saw Sonia seated in front of his closet drawers, folding his briefs into a different drawer, while her luggage box lay open on the floor next to her. Brian lay on one end of his bed facing the ceiling, while Sonia lay on the other end facing the wall as she slept comfortably. Brian turned in her direction when he heard the soft snores coming from her direction. She was really asleep? How could she barge into his life and his bedroom this way? Earlier on, she had rearranged his closet and drawers so she could make space for her stuff. After trying to sleep to no avail, he got out of bed and picked up a hoodie sweater which he wore over his t-shirt and joggers before walking out of the bedroom. Although the house was dark, save for the beam of light coming in through the patio door from the back, he didn't bother to turn on any light as he made his way to the bar to pour himself a glass of wine before opening the patio door and heading to the poolside. He needed to think about what Matt had said earlier. Maybe he wasn't dealing with the situation as he should. He tried to imagine someone else in the same situation. What would he have advised the person to do? He knew Sonia was crazy, and as such, he couldn't handle things like Matt had said. He didn't know just what Sonia would do if he outrightly announced that he was done with her. Although he wasn't one to care about his reputation very much, he also wasn't one to make rash decisions by underestimating Sonia's craziness. "I was looking for you," Sonia spoke from behind him, startling him since he had been deep in thought and hadn't realized that someone was out there with him. "Why? I thought you were fast asleep?" Brian asked without turning to look at her. "I woke up to ease myself, and when I didn't find you beside me, I decided to look for you," Sonia said as she took the empty seat beside him. She shivered a little because the night air was cold, and she wasn't wearing a robe over the skimpy nightgown she was wearing. "You can return inside. I'll be out here for a while," Brian told her as he raised the wineglass to his lips and took a sip before dropping it on the table next to him. Sonia said nothing as she lay back on the chair beside him. "Why are you out here alone? Is something bothering you?" Sonia asked after some time. "I left my problem inside, but it followed me out," Brian said dryly, making Sonia scowl at him. "Tell me something. Am I not your type?" Sonia asked, sitting up so she could have a better look at him. "I know you womanize a lot, so I'm wondering why you don't seem to have any interest in me," Sonia said thoughtfully. Brian sighed wearily. "If you were me, would you get involved with you?" Brian asked, and Sonia giggled unexpectedly. "I would, and I would count myself very lucky to be involved with someone like me," Sonia said with a grin, making Brian's lips twitch in amusement. It was clear she thought very highly of herself. "Earlier, when you said you have been with girls before, did you mean it?" Brian asked curiously. "Yes, once when I was in high school and another time in college," Sonia said with a wide smile. "And you haven't tried it since college?" Brian asked, and Sonia shook her head. "Why? Bad experience?" Brian asked as he sipped from his glass. "Let's just say I realized that in as much as I like boobs, I don't want to suck someone else's pussy. So I'd say I'm more into guys than I am into girls," Sonia said, making Brian stifle the urge to chuckle. He couldn't imagine giving any guy a blowjob. The thought of it alone made him want to puke. Although he didn't want to like her, he couldn't deny that he liked how she easily expresses herself. "Why did you propose to me that night?" she asked after a while, making Brian glance at her. "Why was she asking that all of a sudden?" Brian mused, before choosing to answer her question honestly. "There was a scandal concerning me and a younger actress. It was affecting her, and I wanted to cover it up with something else so she would stop bothering me with her tears," Brian answered truthfully. Sonia nodded her head, since she had figured that out already from the beginning. She had only asked to see if he would be honest about it, and she was grateful he answered truthfully. "I see. Why did you accept?" "If you had simply said no like any normal person would have done, it would have also served the purpose of covering up the scandal," Brian said, making the corners of her lips curve upward. "Unfortunately, I'm not normal, and double unfortunately, I like you. I've had a crush on you for a long time, and I figured this was my chance to get close to you," Sonia answered, taking him back. "You have a crush on me?" Brian asked in surprise. "Why do you sound so surprised?" Sonia asked in amusement as she shivered again. "You are Brian Hank, and I'm sure half the ladies in the country must have dreamt of you at one point or the other," Sonia added as she rubbed her arms, which were now covered in goose pimples. "You should go inside. You're cold," Brian suggested when he noticed the way she was rubbing her arms. "How about we strike a deal?" Sonia asked, ignoring what he had just said. "A deal? What sort of deal?" Brian asked as he took off his sweater and handed it to her. He couldn't afford for her to get sick because she was being stubborn. Sonia raised a brow as she took the sweater, which was still warm from him. She hadn't been expecting such a thoughtful gesture from him, so she smiled as she said, "Thank you," and then slipped it over her head, while Brian sipped his wine as he waited for her to finish and answer him. "The more you try to get rid of me, the more I will stick to you. So why not let me have my way for a year, and then after that, if you still want me to leave, I will disappear from your life?" Sonia asked, surprising Brian, who almost choked on his wine. "A year?" he asked in a choked voice. "Yes, a year. Within that year, I will let you do anything you want. We can tell everyone we are in an open relationship, Sonia suggested. He knew it. He knew she was crazy. Only a crazy person would come up with an idea like this. Only Sonia would. Why would I want to do something like that? Brian asked incredulously. Because I can assure you that you and your best friend are wasting your time with whatever plan you try to come up with to get rid of me. Even if you decide to announce to the world that the engagement was a hoax, I won't let you be. So, you have to do it my way. That is the only way you can be free of me, Sonia said with a shrug. Brian sighed. What kind of a problem did he get himself into? Who was this lady? What did she want from him? A year is too much, Brian said after a while. Okay, let's make it 6 months then. I would have gotten everything I want from you by then, Sonia said, making Brian narrow his eyes suspiciously. Everything you want from me? What do you want from me? Just tell me and I will give it to you so you can leave, Brian pleaded. It's not that easy. Most importantly, I'm working on my next bestseller, and it is about our situation, Sonia said in a confidential whisper. I don't think any of this is a good idea for a story, Brian said with a shake of his head. I'm the writer here. Allow me to decide that. I'm sure this particular story will be adapted as a movie, and when that time comes, I will make sure you get the lead role, Sonia promised. Brian thought about it for a moment. 6 months and you will disappear? Brian asked doubtfully. Yes. Just allow me be your fiancé for 6 months, Sonia repeated with a nod. Don't forget that it would make more sense for us to break up after some months, rather than a week after our engagement. Also, I will break up with you myself, Sonia added. What do you stand to gain from being my fiancé for 6 months? Brian asked, wondering if she wanted to get money from him. As if she could read his mind, she said, You don't have to give me any money within this period. Just treat me as you would a fiancé. Only difference is it will be an open relationship, so you don't have to be faithful to me, Sonia added. 6 months? Brian asked again. Just 6 months. We could put it down in words, Sonia suggested. She had spent most part of the afternoon writing and plotting, and she had come to the conclusion that it would probably work best for the both of them this way. And you would live under my roof within this time? Brian asked, and Sonia nodded. If I finish the story before then, I might not have to stay for that long. But yes, I will live with you for this period. So? Deal? She asked, extending a hand to him for a handshake. Brian thought about it for a moment, although he would have preferred to have her out of his life within a week, or at most a month, but he knew she was right. He wouldn't be able to shake her off if she wasn't willing to leave on her volition. 6 months? He wouldn't always be here within those 6 months anyway. He would travel to shoot movies and do other stuff that his career required, and before he knows it, 6 months would be over. With that thought in mind, he took her little hand in his own. Deal.